All right, just to update everybody online, we're going to get started in about 5 minutes. So you got a few more minutes to get settled, and we'll get started shortly. As always, chat feature in Zoom if you need me. Thank you.
I'm lucky. This America. How are you today?
Been a long day.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
My name is Michelle Gums. I'm calling the Legislative Committee to order. It is 10:40. And we would like a roll call, please.
Bates, Doherty,
Right here.
Wright,
Right here.
Molina. Molina present. Strathman,
Chapman here.
Linder,
They're here.
Gums.
Gums here.
Somebody needs to mute. Was that me? Maybe it was me.
I would request a motion for the unanimous consent of the minutes.
Bates would
like-
ask
Bates,
for unanimous consent to accept the minutes from February 19th.
any objections? None noted. Thank you. And now we do have public comment.
We approve the remote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Remote attendant, any objections to our remote attendees?
Who are they?
None noted.
Who are they?
Welcome.
Yeah, who's,
And now we're on to public.
who's remote?
Molina
Melina
and Doherty,
and Doherty? Okay, fine.
both.
Yeah.
Mark gets 3 minutes, yes. So now we're going to call public comment, and today we have Mark Avalar. And so you're aware, Mark, I did reach out and sent your email to somebody else to review, just so you're aware. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Legislative Committee. I would like to, topic I'm going to talk about today are pharmacy benefits managers, PBMs. And I know in the last committee meeting, you had a discussion about affordability. This, again, along that same theme of affordability. And this is you've heard the names, the big three: CVS Caremark, Express Scripts, Optum Rx. All of them are owned by either insurance companies or conglomerates, but UHG, Cigna, or CVS Health. This is near and dear to me because I can recall after the last big merger in early 2018, in late 2019, then freshman Congressman Sean Casten hosted a meeting where a roundtable on prescription drugs and affordability. Now, I know the gist of the House leadership at that time was to pass the negotiation for prescription drugs with Big Pharma. But myself and a couple of other people in that roundtable, because it was a roundtable, not a town hall, so it was much more free flowing, we brought up PBMs. And what's frustrating is, and even after I helped a couple of candidates with their position papers on PBMs and why they have to be reined in, it's 5.5 years later, and we're finally starting to see some action. And I'm hoping the Legislative Committee can be of help, both in Springfield and in Washington. On April 4th this month, Senate Bill 709 was amended with Senate Amendment 1, your classic gut and replace, and it's been renamed to the Prescription Drug Affordability Act. This is a significant, long overdue set of reforms to regulate PBMs because they haven't been regulated either in Springfield or Washington. There were some subject matter hearings last year, and finally this year, it looks like the General Assembly is going to approve something. So it's under Senate Bill 709. The deadline to get out of the Senate is May the 9th. So I'm asking the Legislative Committee to add this bill on your watch list. And if necessary, if you can report it out to the May 9th, 7th meeting of the Executive Committee, this is something that we should get on board. It was just filed, and let's be proactive to help the residents of Kane County afford their meds. Finally, at the federal level, this past Monday, the National Attorneys General Association, NAAG, issued a letter co-signed by a bipartisan group of 39 state attorneys general from across the political spectrum in order to ask Congress to pass. And I did share that letter, and I trust Madam Chair will share that with the entire committee. And hopefully our federal lobbyists can keep an eye when that legislation is filed. And let's make this happen for the residents of the county. Thank you so much for hearing me out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Avalar. I appreciate it. And again, we did forward that for review. So you can look forward to the response on May 7th. Okay. Do we have any other public comment? I don't believe we do. Our legislative update, I don't know, is Greg, are you online?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Our McGuire Woods team is online with a little bit of a legislative update for you all.
It's just me today. Louis and James are unavailable.
Greg, you're
So
really hard to hear.
let me lean in and try to talk loud.
Thank you.
It's just me today with Louis and James out. So I'm gonna give you a very quick federal update, and then I'll talk through some of the Springfield updates from James and Louis. Federally, I'd say the main items to report are two things. One is what's known as the budget reconciliation process. And the other week, the House passed the Senate budget resolution. This is sort of what is being dubbed sort of the Trump administration's sort of large tax overhaul package for Congress. What happens during budget resolution is that the full chambers pass a resolution that instructs what are sort of referred to as authorizing committees to come up with plans to reduce or increase taxing authorities and spending plans within those respective committees. For example, the Energy and Commerce Committee in the House deals a lot with healthcare, and you're probably hearing a lot about how will the Energy and Commerce Committee sort of reduce spending by $880 billion over 10 years. And so what is being discussed in that committee is, are they going to have to reduce spending on things like Medicaid? So now that that's passed through the House, these committees, these authorizing committees have to come up with plans. We're anticipating hearings in May, early May on this topic. And so we'll have more to report back when those committees start having public hearings. That's a big issue. It's a very national issue of what they're going to do in the spending and increasing and reducing what they do. So that's one thing. The other big ticket item that we're working on closely with the county is that members of Congress and the respective appropriation committees in the House and the Senate are starting to solicit fiscal year 26 requests for congressionally directed spending or community project funding. As many of you will know, what happened this year with fiscal year 25 was a continuing resolution was passed that extends federal spending for fiscal year 25 through September into October 1st. Unfortunately, when they passed a CR, they eliminated nationally all congressionally directed spending. So all the projects that we'd secured for the county in fiscal year 25 were washed out along with everyone else across the country. It was an unfortunate way that they had to get the budget done, but that's where we are today. So what we're working on now is making sure all those requests from fiscal year 25 are resubmitted and ideally selected for fiscal year 26. So I appreciate all the staff at the county that is working with us to get this done. It's a very ad hoc process. All the House and Senate offices have their own deadlines. And so it's a lot of hurry up and wait. And I can't thank everyone at the county enough who's jumping quickly to get it done with us. So that's sort of your quick and dirty on the federal side. On the state side, I want to run through some of the legislation that Louis and James have worked closely with the county on getting accomplished. A very important bill, Senate Bill 1909. It's a quick take authorizing bill. We got that passed unanimously through the House. Representative Dan Ugasti is the chief sponsor. Representative Ness is the chief co-sponsor. Once we worked out some issues locally, we were able to get this done. It moves over to the Senate. We don't expect opposition there. I'm sorry, I had this inverted. Senator DeWitt was the chief sponsor in the Senate. It's now in the House. So what is going to happen? This bill will allow the county to take some property they need to ensure that a large federal grant that's been secured for the county moves through readily and without any hiccups. House Bill 2442 is a traffic signal preemption bill. This bill we worked on at the request of the emergency management folks at the county. It passed unanimously out of the House with bipartisan sponsors. Representative Ugasti carried it along with Representative Hernandez, Hansen, Bunting, and Rick Ryan. We expect Senator DeWitt and Senator Castro to pick it up in the Senate. So that one we feel very good about as well. Senate Bill 1424 is the leasing of county property legislation. This has been a tricky one. We've been working closely with the chair and others on. Louis has been negotiating hours on end with unions as well as involving the state's attorney's office. We have an extension on the bill for third reading in the Senate that gets us through to May 9th. We think this is doable. There's been a lot of negotiation that has to occur, but bear with us as we work through the process. And then the last item is Senate Bill 71. It's a rail and school safety bill that Senator Laura Murphy outside the county has introduced. It basically has local and state emergency management offices come up with plans with schools and school districts if there's a rail safety incident, such as a derailment. We work closely with Scott Busecki at the Emergency Management Office, along with the City of Aurora, to negotiate this bill to a good place. We expect it to move forward, and I think we're in a good place as far as addressing any concerns the county had. So I just ran through that very quickly. Happy to take any questions. There may be some things I can't answer on the state side with Louis and James not here, but happy to speak to the federal items as well. Thanks.
Madam Chair, we can't hear you.
Mr. Teppe's hand is up for a question. Go ahead, Mr. Teppe.
Thank
can
you,
predict this
Madam
one.
Chair. My normal question is, where do things stand on the property tax freeze for seniors in raising that amount?
Mr. Tepe, I'm unprepared to answer it. I need Louis or James to speak to it. So let me get you an answer after the call and get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Mr. Tepe. Does anybody have any comments or questions for our lobbyist team at this point? All right, very good. Thank you, Greg, and thank the team. I know they're busy working for us right now. Also, we didn't have a meeting last month, so I just wanted to advise this committee also of what occurred in Washington. What was it, February, March? I think it was. Gosh, I'm losing track of time. At any rate, I would like to thank our team. So when I was in Washington for the NACO Legislative Committee, our team, just so you're aware of, part of what they do is they were able to schedule our meetings with myself and Mr. Rickert, and then navigate us through the halls and all of these things. We had sit downs with all of our federal delegation. It was great. And I want to, just so you're all aware, reach out to them and ask them if, you need anything, they're always available. And I know we're getting, it's an upward battle here, but we're getting everybody on board. Herding cats is challenging, but I've discovered lately that you just grab one at a time and it seems to be working out. So yeah, I'm not letting go of the first one, but our team has been meeting with the judicial partners as well. So I just want to thank you all for doing that. Okay, I don't have any questions for you either. Thank you very much again, and we'll send out those updates. All right. On to new business. I put this on under new business so that we can have a just spitball conversation here. Everybody's having conversations about budgets. So we do not have a budget at the legislative committee. We don't have money for staff or any other thing. So I don't know if that's a conversation that needs to be had here. But I will tell you, going way back to when Cheryl and I were green, it was a lovely idea to have a legislative breakfast. And I don't know if you guys want to have any kind of conversation about that. It's my understanding from Madam Chair that we do have some money. I think the conversation needs to be had at some level so that we can do our due diligence with at least talking about a budget that we don't have. Does anybody have any thoughts? Mr. Great.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Can you describe more what the breakfast was or what it could or should be?
No, I can't. Somebody here probably can. Tom, were you ever engaged in those breakfasts? I can't because I wasn't here for those. So, Mr. Linder, actually, if you go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know what was done here in the past, but when I was active with the teachers union, our West Suburban Teachers Union held a big legislative breakfast every year. And basically they invite in all of the legislators that are persuaded or persuadable to our issues. No sense wasting time on somebody who's dead set against one of our issues, but invite them all in to, meet and greet while we're getting ready for breakfast. And then you would get up and talk a little bit about our legislative agenda, and you would introduce the legislators, who would each get a chance to talk to, and hopefully we'd have the full board there. And maybe some staff, depending on what we wanted to do. But, and so it's a way of the legislator getting a feeling for, how serious we are about some of this stuff, and our staff and board members being more comfortable with, okay, I met this guy, I shook his hand at the meeting, I can call his office and promote something we need to be doing. Problem is, it's probably going to cost you, I don't know, by the time you get the room and the service and blah, 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 probably $100 a seat, I would guess, depending on where you do it. And if we catered it in here, it would probably be cheaper than doing it at a hotel or something.
Mhm.
Madam
Okay.
Chair.
And then I have two more people before you, if you don't mind. So I'm just told that Blair actually was able to set these things up. So if he could talk on that, because he was able to experience how it occurred. I think that's the basis of your question. And then we also have Mr. Bales, who was engaged as well. So if Blair, if you want to, talk a little bit, that'd be great.
Well, you know me, I like to hide in the background, but this is Blair with IT. I several years was kind of the engine behind it, so I do have some experience. The most recent version of it was kind of a roadshow where some folks from the legislative committee showed up in Springfield and delivered basically box lunches or box breakfasts and had conversations. But we did several years here on campus. We used the auditorium right below this room, invited the local all the way up to the national senators and representatives that all cover this area. We had mixed success on attendance. A lot of it depended on the date that was chosen and their availability. In several cases, we had representatives of the office as opposed to the actual elected official. We generally had it catered in something like a Panera or something along those lines. The legislators were lined up at the front of the room and had a chance to speak. We had a scroll of the top 3 to 5 priorities countywide, and then departments and offices were welcome to bring little packets that were separate things. But it seemed as though the most success was keeping it very short and concise, and narrowing down what the main priorities were. It usually lasted about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, with the talking of the elected officials, welcome from the chair, things like that, and then some conversation afterwards. So that was how it basically looked, and the budget on it was probably under $500 once you were talking about food and so forth. We have some of the supplies, tables, raised cocktail tables for the mingling portion. So we could certainly resurrect that if that was something you're interested in.
I appreciate that, Blair. Thank you very much, Mr. Gray. That's part of your answer. And then also I have Mr. Bales online, who also was engaged in those. So let's get an answer from him, and then we'll go to Mr. Rickard. Mr.
I don't
Bales.
have much more to add. I just coincidentally remember attending them as a staffer for Senator Durbin, and I thought they were just as described. There was sort of a dais front table section we sat at, and there was, I remember, coffee and donuts, things like that. And we took questions, talked about what our bosses or the actual members were working on, and I thought they were nice.
All right. And thank you. So okay, Mr. Rickard, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add a little bit more. Tom Ricker from Division of Transportation. It would sometimes be set up too as a panel, so you could direct questions. We would also highlight, as Blair was saying earlier, some of the priorities. It also helped to unify the county's position, because there usually was a white paper that was part of it, and the highest priorities were there, and it unified it. Otherwise, a lot of times, a lot of the work is individuals from the board or individuals from the departments heading down to Springfield and working on different issues. Over the years, we've talked about the local government distributed tax. We've talked about funding for the Safety Act. We've talked about the quick take bill. I mean, there's many different things that you could focus on and let all our legislators know that this is a priority. Another area that we're quite often now, either in Chicago or down in Springfield, is the whole transit aspect, because we've got to finalize some of those thoughts within the next 2 months and before the end of May. So there's a lot of different activities where there is that back and forth questions, et cetera, and just unifying where the county board is and helping our legislators get some direction.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. And Ms. Strathman.
Thank you. I just, back in the day when we were green, it was COVID time.
Right.
And so we couldn't do this, but we did our traveling gift bag show. And Michelle and I went out to the different legislators and took them a King County coffee mug and a King County water bottle. And just to have a face-to-face with people is really, just like when you watch remotely on the meetings here, you miss so much. I think face-to-face is always better. I think it would be an excellent idea to pursue this and set it up.
So I guess my question, if you guys want to talk about it, is I know I get the budget conversation, okay, but is this something that, a modest budget or something like this?
Are you,
Ms. Bates, go ahead.
are you fishing for a motion?
I'm
or just a
fishing for just
consensus?
conversation because I think they're
I
like,
think we should do it.
okay,
think
so
we should
let's
have
have
a
a further
breakfast.
conversation and see what that money looks
It'd be
like.
very valuable.
Yeah, okay, we'll see what that money looks like. Mr. Gripe, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it could be valuable. I've also, in my business career, attended things like this that you come home and you go, I could have gone, I could have not gone. The food was good. Next. I'd love to have, and I'd be glad to work on this if we have a smaller group unofficially to talk about it, but something that, and where it would be. If it's here, you get one kind of audience. If it's in Springfield or wherever, it's another kind of audience, but something that whoever we want to attend besides ourselves would pay $100 to come to. Not that we'd ask them to, but are they just going to show up because they're going to show up, or they're going to send somebody in the office? And I think what will drive that is what we are talking about. And whose agenda is it? Is it our agenda? We're creating it, but is it our items, or is it what we want them to know? There's different ways to go about this. So worth discussing, I think. But if we don't have the right agenda that's focused specifically, which will tell us who we want there, then I think it wouldn't be a good idea, but I think it could.
Fair statement. Okay. Mr. Roth, go ahead.
Roth here. There's other groups that have it. Metro West has one a couple times a year. I've gone where the legislators come in. IAPD had the lunch a month ago. They have it. And maybe just to pick their brains on how they organize it to get an idea for costs. And I think the critical thing is get the legislators there. At the IAPD we launched last month, there was I don't know if it was a date conflict, very few representatives there.
So I think, Mr. Roth, to your point, I think, this was just a conversation, and I
Right.
just wanted to see where everybody fell on this. All of those units or organizations are wonderful. I think that what we're looking for, and if you look to surrounding counties, valid questions, Mr. Wright, but it should, in my opinion, it should be done here, King County's legislative breakfast, right? So it's very specific. I don't think it's cost prohibitive. I don't think it's a lot of money, but getting feedback from those who had participated before, it was good stuff. I just wanted to open that up for conversation. I do sense an appetite to have a further discussion and get the numbers to you. So I will do that if that's the concurrence of
And
Mr.
Can I follow one more thing?
Follow up.
Metro West actually gets like all the different cities government involved too. So it's the legislators above and the mayors below.
So I would suggest to you, just with my experience, I believe that the legislators will come with an invitation to
Right.
King County.
Right.
I mean, they show up to the other ones. And I have no doubt that they will show up. So we can talk about the things that are being brought to us.
But I agree, it should be here.
Should be here. Mr. Linder.
Yeah, and it'd be much more affordable to do it here, but one of the challenges that we always had was when.
Yeah.
You don't want to be on any weekend that their session is apt to be held over because it's near the end of the session. You don't really want to do it after they've voted on all the most important bills. Finding a place, and I would think that Greg and Louis and them can help us a little bit with calendar in deciding what the best time to do this is. Usually fall is good, but yeah, anytime is great, but we may lose out on some things this year if we don't do it. Well, it's almost too late to get it planned, to get it on the calendar for this season, I would guess. I don't know.
Noted.
Let's look at it, because I do think it's valuable. Some individuals, both department chairs and committee members, will make a connection with one or more of these legislators that perhaps continues, and that's really valuable.
Mhm. All right, very good. Also, it's kind of a and webpage issue. I don't know, Mavis, did you have a question for me about that?
I would like to ask where we are with our agenda.
Okay, so we presented a kind of generic legislative agenda, and I will let you know that myself and Julie Mann, our PIO, will be meeting. I don't know if it's going to be this week. She's available today, but I don't know if I am. To make it pretty, as we say, and put it, have a web page that's designated for this legislative committee like every other freaking county on the planet. So that's being handled this week.
Excellent.
And I spoke with Madam Chair earlier this morning, and a lot of it we should talk about as far as what it looks like, and I'll bring that to you once it's completed. But as you know, I'm not technologically savvy when it comes to pictures and videos. So I have every confidence in Julie Mann's abilities.
Madam Chair, follow up. So
Ms. Bates, go ahead.
have we seen the legislative agenda?
Yes, it was presented to you earlier this year
Okay.
in a very generic form. It just, we
Generic.
need to get it
Okay.
in a pretty spot.
If you need help, let me know.
Well, I probably will.
Okay.
So that, I just wanted to touch base on that. So that's happening. And then under new business, we have some department directors and heads here. I know they have legislative issues. So if you, Scott Buzecki from Office of Emergency Management is here. I know he would like to speak about a few things. So let's hear from Scott.
Yeah, thanks, Scott Buzecki, Emergency Management. So I just wanted to say, you know, the lobbyists that we've had have been a great benefit to my office. They mentioned the couple of bills that we've worked on, specifically the Senate Bill 71 that was going on outside of our area. I didn't know any of the elected officials involved in that, whereas in the other one, I approached Representative Ugasti to start that process. But with the Senate Bill 71, I really wouldn't able to have made any headway, I don't think, without them to make contact with the legislators that they knew and advise me on how to go about doing that. I don't think, and I don't have a lot of experience dealing with that level of government. So that was real beneficial. And I'll just tell you that the original bill would have required the county emergency management to develop a evacuation plan for use when there's like a train derailment or a chemical release for every school in the county. And I don't know how many private schools there are, but we did a rough count and there's 175 public schools. That would have been a monumental task. And it was basically 2 years from now was when it had to be done. So there's no way we could have done that with the staff that we had. We would have been talking about hiring people. I know McHenry County, who is smaller, probably less schools than we have, they estimated they would have needed 4 planners just to comply with that. So we probably would have needed more. So we were really concerned about this bill when it came up. It's been presented the last couple of years, I think, and we're in a really good place with that. So now it's the schools are responsible for their planning, and we are providing technical assistance, providing them with data to help them, but we don't have to do individual plans. So we're a lot better off there. So
Just Scott, just to interrupt you really quick, I do follow all of the emails. I do not respond to them all. But that, we've expressed that as a committee before. We don't get in the middle of the details. They work with our staff or our lobbyists. I don't respond to all of them because I'm not needed. And Tom, you're in the same boat there. I mean, I follow them. I just don't need to get involved. So go ahead.
yeah, so and then some other bigger concerns I think about grants in general that I think we're going to need some help on going forward. So everyone's been following the FEMA and federal funding for emergency management. The way it works, and the executive order from the president that came out maybe a few weeks or a month ago said essentially, hey, look, everybody, we've developed efficiency, and the locals can take over emergency management. And it makes it sound like that we can, the federal government can take a step back and the locals will take over. And that's not the way it is at all. Really, that's the way it's always been. The way funding happens is, so there's a grant called the Emergency Management Performance Grant. That money goes to all the states from FEMA. Illinois gets the money and cuts it in half. Half of it stays with FEMA, and my understanding is it funds half of the IEMA budget, the Illinois Emergency Management Agency. The other half of the Illinois funding is spread around Illinois. So every one of the 102 counties, we're a mandated emergency management county. Every county is, and we're required to remain accredited. And that money is split up among all of those 102 counties. Plus, there are a handful of accredited municipalities. Aurora and St. Charles are ours in the county. Naperville is, and they're basically the larger communities typically might be. And so that money is split between the counties and the accredited municipalities. So our cut of that in Kane County is about $85,000. It's down from prior years, but that's what we're due this year, a grant already approved. We're told that money is not canceled. It's on hold. And I had a conversation this morning with a colleague and learned that they're slow walking the money. It should have been paid out. There's a lawsuit that required the money to be paid, but we haven't gotten the money yet. We were told maybe there's going to be some more hoops to jump through, some more paper documentation or something. But for right now, it seems like that's still going to happen. But I'm concerned about long term because those grants were already approved when all this happened. Because this application process, I think we applied way back in like August was when the application process is. So I'm a little concerned for future years that might be the direction that they're going. They've already canceled the BRIC grants, which is building resilient infrastructure in communities. That's money that's for mitigation. That is meant to take, a disaster happens and it's making the impact lessened. So one of the long-term examples is buying flood-prone properties and turning them into parks. So flooding is no longer a concern there. It's hardening facilities. It's both government and private. It's take a disaster. You can't stop a tornado from happening, but you can weather the storm better. And that's what mitigation does. We didn't have any mitigation grants currently, but we are in the middle of applying for one to help us write a recovery plan. And so that hadn't gotten very far. And then a longer term concern is that we just, if you recall, we passed our King County Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan late last year, early this year. I can't remember exactly. That plan is due. We're mandated to have it. It's the next update is due in 2029. The plan was to apply for a grant in 2026 because this last round we had a grant that paid for a consultant to do the heavy lifting with that plan. It involves every municipality in the county to provide information on the infrastructure projects that they want to do. and that plan got done. So in 2026, the plan is to apply for another grant. So then if approved, then we would be working on the next plan beginning in 27, 28. The plan would be built and then approved and adopted in 29 prior to the deadline. So if BRIC doesn't come back, or if some other funding doesn't come up for that, then that's going to be a huge challenge for us, because that's on top of our other plans. We're currently doing our EOP, Emergency Operations Plan now. That's due in March of 26, and that's going to be every 3 years. So do the math. The next one is March of 29. So potentially we have 2 major plans that have to be done, submitted in the same year. So that's going to be a challenge. So that's the funding. So I'm hoping that we can work that out, and that the lobbyists will continue to help us make headway there. So does that answer the questions?
Yeah, it does. I did have a question for you. I know there's a lot going on with FEMA. There was, so we are obviously all know members of NACO. They have been attending hearings for, there's this conversation to completely eliminate FEMA, or redo it. So with our partnership with NACO, just for your reference, these are our experts in Office of Emergency Management. I think it would behoove us to include them in our NACO structure at some level. So perhaps we can have a further conversation about their being a part of a certain standing committees. But we'll kind of have that conversation offline, but these are the experts on those issues. So something to think about. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Rickert.
Yeah, just a couple things. First, again, to our lobbyists, McGuire Woods has really assisted us in a lot of different recent efforts, and I want to say thank you for that. Both our legislative efforts at the federal level, as well as our recent drive down to Springfield, which a number of you also attended that as well. Very, very helpful. This is going to all be very high level. So if you have questions, feel free to talk to me later. But Greg already spoke to the community project funding. We're working, myself and Heidi Files are currently working on getting that all updated. We've already submitted to the senators' portals, and so those applications are already in because they were due about a week and a half ago. Now we're looking at our representative portals at Congress, and working with McGuire Woods in that regard. The focus has primarily been at the Senate submittal. We were focusing primarily at Randall at Big Timber. That's an ongoing federal project. We have 2 other projects that Greg is working with us to see whether or not we're able to resubmit those. Timing wise, we're already moving forward with those projects. They already have existing federal funds in one of the roadway projects. The other was for some radio communication equipment, and we're trying to figure out, it was budgeted with our local funds, but if there is a chance to get federal funds to help get those reimbursed, we're trying to do that. At this point in time, we're just going to be proceeding forward and making sure that we have the ability to talk to whether it's OEM or whether it's a sheriff's office. It's something that we need to do within the next couple months. And if we can get federal funds, great. Again, McGuire Woods is helping us with that. We're also working on the Safe Streets for All aspect. To be eligible for the federal funds, we have to have that adopted at the regional level by the end of May. So we're working with CMAP on that so that we can submit applications and assist the municipalities in submitting applications the end of June. So that's underway. We're working with our Ride and Cane federal submittals for 5310 funds to make sure that we continue to shore up the ongoing monies that we need to do Ride and Cane. It's about a $3.2 million program annually, so that's underway. And then when we were out in Washington DC, we met on a whole bunch of different aspects. Had hearings on the Highway Trust Fund because that needs to be reauthorized. I think the last time it was reauthorized was 10 years ago. The continuing resolutions do sometimes impact us, as Greg alluded to, and so you're all aware of some of those impacts. Trying to make sure truck weights aren't increasing on various highways. Trying to continue to get more direct federal funding to the counties, and IDJA provided some of that, but most federal funding goes through IDOT, and we're just trying to see if we can have more come directly to the county. We did meet with our various legislators in Washington, DC, and talked about many of the various projects, both at the county level and a little bit at the municipal level, since we help the municipalities both in Kane and Kendall County. So there's a little bit of discussion on that. And then we also had some discussion on Illinois 47. And the concerns are with the growth that's occurring, especially on the north end of the county. There's been significant growth in the last few years. And we're trying to figure out how to make sure that planning effort is moving forward. Our congressional leadership has reached out to IDOT, and we've had recent conversations with IDOT in the past month about moving forward with some of the planning and preliminary engineering that's needed to start looking at 47, how that's going to look in the future. At the state level, attended a number of Senate hearings, primarily relative to transit. It seems like we have at least 1 or 2 meetings every week on where transit needs to go and how to address the fiscal cliff. Part of that has also been discussions on how to modernize the Illinois sales tax. There is aspects of if we modernize it and bring it up to how some of the other areas of the country utilize sales tax, that there might be $350 to $400 million of some of the revenues that are needed in order to make sure that we're not reducing transit by 40% of service. And so discussions are occurring on that, as well as how to structure the governance aspect of transit. Right now, I think one of our primary concerns was that we generally believe that maintaining pace and Metra and the CTA helps to ensure that there is more of a direct local focus. And it seems like that's the direction it's heading, but there still is, how do we fund the necessary monies that are needed of over $700 million to $1.5 billion annually in order to make sure we're not reducing services. So that's ongoing. Attended a Senate hearing in regards to the quick take bill down in Springfield. As Greg mentioned, that's all going well. It's now on the House side. We anticipate that it should be good to go. Agosti and Ness, Representative Agosti and Ness, are now carrying it on the House side. We appreciate Senator DeWitt's assistance on the Senate side, and so that's all going good. And that, again, as was mentioned, will help us with the Randall at Hops project. So those are the big items. And as the chair mentioned, these standing committees are very helpful. And I know that
You're speaking of
well, the standing committee that you're on
the
and for
NACO standing
NACO,
committees. Yes, you're the
and
transportation.
I'm on the transportation standing committee. But there are other standing committees, and to be able to make sure that we are part of the ongoing efforts, both at the state level and the federal level. These are good committees to be involved in. So I'm just kind of concurring with your thought on that. So
Seat at the table.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's my update. And if you have any questions or want more detail on any of the items that I mentioned, feel free to ask.
All right, and then we have Mr. Isaacson in the back. There's always legislation everywhere. Come on down to Legislative Committee.
Come on down.
Thank you. You're welcome to sit up here, by the way. This is Mr. Isaacson from our Health Department.
Good morning. Thank you. Good to see everybody. So we do a lot of legislative work through the Health Department. I'm the legislative liaison for the health departments in the Northern Illinois portion of the state, and then work closely with my colleagues with a group we call the Illinois Association for Public Health Administrators. So we're tracking hundreds of bills every session to see what's happening and what the impact is, including, you know, things that are impacting our healthcare system. Going along with what my colleague said with some of the freezes with the federal funds. One thing that we're seeing, we have a grant that's going to be about a $700,000 hit to the health department, which may impact multiple positions. I just want to, I guess, main point I'd want to get across to people here is just to make sure people understand how much federal funding goes into things that we think of as being local initiatives. So our local OEM, our local health department, even at the state level, there's a tremendous amount of those dollars that come to us from the federal level. And so these cuts are going to continue to hurt us here at the local level. And I'm always of the mind that we've already paid our taxes and sent them to either DC or to Springfield. So we should be doing everything we can here to bring them back into our community, to put them to work for our residents. We do have one grant that has been severely cut, as I mentioned. We're working with the state health department now. I don't think there's a local legislative issue. This is really caught up in the mire of everything that's happening at the federal level. And then we are happy to look into any legislation if there are any health issues, and happy to work with Mr. Bales and Ms. Combs on any other issues that may be coming forward. Certainly at the state level, we're always looking at one of our primary local grants is called the Local Health Protection Grant. So we have successfully passed legislation over the last couple of years to support that. And I will say, and I love the idea of the legislative breakfast because I think it's a great opportunity to get people together. And from a public health perspective, I would just say, I feel very fortunate that the representatives and senators we have at both the state and the federal level have been very helpful for us for public health. So as is this board. So appreciate everything. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Michael. Does anybody have any questions for anyone that has spoken?
No, I don't think so.
Quiet group today. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Just from my perspective, I know Mike and I have talked about shoring up what we have, keeping what we have. We've got a fight ahead of us to keep the funding going, and it's not going to be easy. And I think the legislative committee is going to, and hopefully we'll have everybody on this team participating throughout the county to make sure that we're functioning at a level we should be, which, you know, we're working on. But we're going to be more important than ever, I think, in my opinion. And our memberships and our team are going to be essential in keeping what we already have and fighting for the things that we need. So there's that. Anybody else have any new business that we haven't talked about yet?
I have a question.
Maybe speak.
When is the next national convention in Washington, DC? When is the next national convention in Washington, DC?
Funny you should ask. Let me look at my calendar. So the annual convention is July 10th through the 15th. That will be in Philadelphia. I'm scheduled to go to that. I will be asking for your permission to attend this. I believe we'll probably get that or whatever we got going on passed before then. So I will be officially asking for your go ahead.
Question, what convention would that be?
The National Association of County Officials.
That one. Okay.
Yes. So so when we have folks that sit on the standing committees of that organization, there are certain requirements when you are on those standing committees. One is to go to the legislative committee in the spring, and then the second is to attend the summer one, whatever that is. There are other conventions that occur throughout the year, but those are the two that we're required to go to. And then also we do have monthly meetings, sometimes bi-monthly meetings, independently. So if there's somebody that sits on the transportation, then they'll have a Zoom meeting. If somebody sits on judicial, then we are required to do that as well. Many opportunities are available that we have not historically taken advantage of with NACO. NACO's a national organization. So you get a lot of things from there. Even just go to their page. I mean, there's so many tutorials and different things. So again, going forward, we're going to have to shore up a lot of things that we have and fight for the things that we believe we should have. So I think we need to utilize those. Mr. Rickert, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the next one in DC for the legislative aspect is February 21st through the 24th.
6. What years?
Oh, sorry.
It's 25, so 26.
So
That's the next legislative one is, it's always in the spring of, well, it's not really the spring, the end of winter at the beginning of the year.
2026.
And you and I have talked about this as well. I mean, I think we've all talked about more engagement with NACO, so.
If we were going to try to plan to go to one of these, like maybe just one, which would be the most important?
Well, I believe that it depends on if you're going to be on a standing committee. Personally, I think that they're all important because you get different things from different conventions.
Okay.
I obviously don't go to all the conventions, but they have them like throughout the year. I think as a requirement of the standing committee, legislative is super important. Being in DC, being face to face, like you said earlier, really does matter. I mean, showing up in their space, they know when we're asking for directed spending earmarks, they could put that piece of paper with a face, right? And of course we know who they are, but you also have the opportunity to stumble upon people that are not within our district, chairs of committees that make decisions about what happens in King County. I had that luxury a couple of different times. People in different states, you were able to have great conversations with them, legislators at the federal level. So they can now put a face to a request, right? So I think those are important. But moving on then, so under old business, so you guys are aware we did have consensus to follow through with the removal of the co-chair language. Just so you're aware, I did have some issues with a piece of the resolution. I can't remember what it is. Long story short, is Civil's working on it. They're fixing the language for our committee specifically. That's really the issue. So the previous one was for jobs. So we eliminated the co-chair from jobs. And now to be consistent, as you all agreed to, we'll be removing the co-chair from legislative. And we want to make sure that it's all buttoned up specifically for legislative. So once we get that through Civil, then we'll be bringing it forward probably next month. Anybody have any questions about that?
Should I move to adjourn?
No,
Be there?
not yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
So again, I will just wrap this up with, I am super excited about everybody's participation. It might not be like here, but we are getting more of those cats to come forward with their, agendas and what they're working on legislatively. I'll leave that for another conversation. Anyways,
But thank you to our directors who are here today.
yes,
It's very
thank you, yes.
interesting.
And then if we have comments from our co-chair, we'd appreciate those now. Hi, Mike.
I,
And we can barely hear you, FYI.
yeah, I know. I think we're starting to get some focus here. We were kind of like stray cats ourselves for a while, and we're starting to get some focus here. I think the big thing is all of us in the room, whether you're on the committee or not, when you go to your other standing committees, when issues come up that should be directed to legislative, we need to get them there. I know, like county clerk's office, when they do their own lobbying, that's fine. But if somebody in Springfield asks our lobbyist about one of their bills, our lobbyist should know where they stand. So it's important, even if some department is off doing their own thing, our lobbyists need to be informed of what you're doing so that people who think of them as being our representatives and they ask us about a bill, nothing will kill a legislator's interest in your bill that more than our lobbyists saying, I never heard anything about it. Hopefully our lobbyists would say, well, let me get back to you on that. And then they'd make a phone call. But it is important that stuff gets focused in this direction. Those people who want to be a Lone Ranger, it can't stop them from being a Lone Ranger, but even the Lone Ranger belonged to the Texas Rangers, you know, it was part of a larger group. Well, anyhow, Tonto.
To your point, Mr. Linder, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Kind of a sensitive conversation, but when we do have those Lone Rangers, sometimes, how do I say this? Sometimes it creates issues with our legislators specifically because they will say, they will ask the question and have asked the question to our lobbyists, you know, well, we're getting two different stories here, and we cannot have that because that is not good for us. So I encourage everybody to come to legislative so that our team knows what's going on, so they're not put in that position again, and that we have to do cleanup for a while. So, which is extremely challenging. Anyways, I appreciate you bringing that up. I don't have any need for executive session. Take a motion for reports on file.
What?
Mr. Tepe, I hear you. Did you have a question?
No, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Ms. Bates, go ahead.
Bates would ask for consensus that we put the reports on file.
And without objection, so be it. That's it. That's all I got.
May I?
Mr. Gripe, you may.
Just again, it's a compliment to you, and this is the second time today I've said this in a committee meeting, because this is the second committee meeting I think I've ever attended for the board that is the way I think committee meetings really should be. They're collegial. They involve experts who are making functional, poignant reports that don't go on for 6 hours. No offense to anybody who ever did one of those. But I think that's the whole point. We get work done when we work like this, when we have people come in and do reports are on file, take some votes, move on. We're not doing our jobs. So thank you to you, and Cheryl was the other chairperson that did this. This is how I think we should do our work. And I thank you for orchestrating that today. And hopefully we can start doing that on all committees.
That's a huge compliment. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Grape. I will note that Mr. Grape is a Republican and I'm a Democrat.
I'm a public servant.
That's how it should be. Anyways, who's going to get us out of the meeting?
Bates moves, we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Thank you, everybody.